Okay, everybody, welcome back to A Plus Parents. And with me this week, so here's what's great this week. So I'm with Jenni and Jody, and I'm going to introduce them to you. But Jenni and Jody and I, the three of us, they go back further than I do in this game. But they met me when there was, people that knew me. There was about 4 people in the world that knew me as what I do, and there were 2 of those 4. So, and the rest of the people were my family. So there we go, right? So, let's tell you a little bit about Jenni and Jody. So Jody Hageman, Jenni Stallman, Jenni and Jody, as they're known to everyone in the community. So they're homeschool moms. Between them, you ready? 10 kids. And I had to ask them about this, 2.5 grandkids, right? And they've been, if you take their collective time of homeschooling, 38 years of experience between the 2 of them and their families. So, when we look at having veteran homeschool moms here, they're it. But not only are they veteran homeschool moms, so they had their own podcast. Their podcast was a nationally syndicated radio show, which I actually got to be on a couple of times as a guest. So now we're going to be able to be here and do this together. They've been speakers at homeschool conventions, and they still do that. And they also wrote a homeschool column for a newspaper. So, when we're talking about having the veterans, having the ones with the skills, having the ones that have been there, done that, here they are now. And if you say, okay, well, so if they did all that, what are they doing today? Well, now they have a homeschool co-op that they're running in Florida. And their homeschool co-op, I think, what'd you guys say, it doubled in size this year?
We have between 500 and 600 students.
That's amazing. So
we don't know the exact number because we just keep adding people.
I've had 4 voicemails today of people trying to be.
That's so great. Well, you've got that. You're a school, running things like the way a school looks. And we don't want to say you're a school because you're not a school, right? But you're a homeschool co-op, which is probably a good place to let people know how to distinguish between the 2 for people that are looking at and they are getting involved in homeschooling. And how do they know if they want to be part of a school program, they want to be part of a co-op program, and what distinguishes the 2. So first of all, welcome you guys. This is just going to be a blast. So if you had to say a little bit about, about each of you, how would you just kind of tell people who you are and what you do? How do you introduce yourselves?
Well,
that's a little scary question. I'm just saying.
Of course it is.
I think first and foremost, we're moms. And now, well, you're grandma. I'm almost a grandma. That's the half. Dennis,
I'm a Mimi. I'm a Mimi.
My half is coming January 6th. She's due to arrive.
Wow.
Yes. So we keep joking because it's almost winter and her name is Winter. So now whenever anybody says winter is coming, it has a whole new meaning for us.
Wow.
But we're moms who made a decision to do things really differently with our own kids, and other people got excited about that and they wanted to know how they could do things differently. And so we began working with families locally, and then that turned into a radio show. And the radio show turned into places saying, hey, can you come speak at our convention? And so it kind of happened organically. And it's just, we've done things differently, even than a lot of homeschoolers. Our whole idea of homeschooling from the beginning was to homeschool with the end result in mind. And we thought, we're not going to just bring school into our home, because if we want school, we'll send our kids to school because they often do it better than we can. But if we want to do something different, if we want to do something innovative, if we want to help our kids really figure out what they're excited about and what they want to study and what they want to learn, and give them kind of the reins of their learning, then we can do that. And that's what we talk about most of the time.
Wow. Okay. Now, but you were you homeschooled as yourself as a young person?
No, very conventional schooling.
So
how did public and private?
Yeah. Right. Oh, okay. So you had it all, right? So how did you discover homeschooling then? How did it find you? Like, what made you decide to be?
Our stories are very different, actually. Yeah. My story is, my oldest is 33, and he came to me at the very beginning of his 7th grade year. He was 12, and he asked me to homeschool him, and I was like, no. Actually, my response to him was, "Oh, let me pray about that." And then he looked at me and he goes, "Why don't you pray now?" And I was like, okay. And I very clearly got, yeah, you're supposed to be doing this. And that's how it started for us.
Mm.
And once we started that, I will tell you this, every time I sent that boy off on the school bus, I had such a hard time because he was so fun to hang out with and I wanted to be with him all the time that it broke my heart to send him away for the entire day. And so I was often the mom who would keep him home for a day from school just to have a fun day with him. Like Saturday and Sunday wasn't enough. And so we were kind of known for that. But once I started that with him and then the two girls came along,
No
I
going
couldn't
back.
send them. We were done. We were in and we were all in. And when I did it, I started out in Illinois. And when I did it, nobody did it. Nobody did it. My family and my in-laws, they said the most horrible things to me. I had one family member say, well, he's going to hate you. Okay. You're going to mess them up. Don't come crying to us when your kids are all messed up.
He's
Okay.
a lawyer now in New Hampshire, not messed up, super happy.
And he works for the governor in New Hampshire. I mean,
Wow.
he's really,
And
and
he's
married
still not
to-
messed up. So
Yeah.
he's a lawyer, he works for the government, and he's still not messed up. You did really
Not
good.
messed up.
well,
Very fun.
not education wise. No. But yeah, so for us, it was purely, he wanted to be homeschooled and it launched us with the girls that just became a way of life. At the time, my husband owned his own construction company in Illinois, and Chase gained so many skills because he literally worked with Tony. And he worked for all of Tony's subcontractors. They all wanted a piece of him because he was such a hard worker, because he was just raised that way. You know what I mean? He was raised next to his father. And then one day I said to him, I said, I want you to have your own business before you graduate high school. I don't care what you do. I want it to be registered. I want it to be legit. And he did. And it was probably the best thing we ever did for him.
Wow.
My road to homeschooling was very different. I had first an autistic child. My oldest child is autistic, and he started full day 12-month year-round school when he was 3. And he was in a great school for kids on the spectrum. They had two-way mirrors in the classrooms, and they encouraged us to spend a lot of time in the classroom so that we could have a uniform language between school and home. And so when my second child, which was fabulous, we had a composition notebook that went back and forth at the end of the day where we talked about what happened at home at night, and they knew what he was coming in with, and then they sent one home to me. So there was great communication. And my second child started kindergarten in a private school, and I said, okay, so when can I come visit? And they were like, why do you want to visit? And I was like, oh, just, so that we're like on the same page. And they were like, we don't do that. So it took a lot of coaxing. And when I started to see some concerning things, like she was really meticulous about things that she did at home. She was artistic even as a little kid, but she would bring these pages home that looked like she had a red crayon in her hand and she was running and she like slipped across the paper. And I was like, whose is this? Oh, that's mine. And they had this system where, like, if you had a problem, you misbehaved, you got a yellow card. You gave them your green card and you got a yellow card. And then if you misbehaved again, you got a red card. And I started seeing she was getting yellow cards and it was beginning to impact her self-esteem. So I thought, I need to get in there and see what's going on. I finally let me in. They got them to let me in, and I watched her, and she was so overstimulated. There were like kids everywhere and toys everywhere. And she was just like, oh, I want all of this. She couldn't listen to anything a teacher was saying. And so I thought, if I leave her in this system, she's going to be a mess. As an adult, she was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. I didn't have those words, but here's what I did figure out pretty quickly. I figured out that when I brought her home, I figured out she was fully capable of sitting still and she was fully capable of paying attention, but she could not do them at the same time. And so we ditched the chair and we got her an exercise ball and we let her like bounce through all of her lessons, and I let her hang upside down when she read, and she developed a lot of coping mechanisms. We didn't have a label for it, but she spent her whole educational life developing coping mechanisms. So when she went to college, she would say to the professors at the beginning of the year, I I listen better and I pay attention better if I can do something with my hands. Would it bother you? Would it be distracting if I drew or if I knit during class? And all of the professors allowed her some sort of accommodation. So then as an adult, she was diagnosed. And I'm glad that we did what we did, because I think if we hadn't, she would have felt like she wasn't capable of achieving a lot.
Well, and that's the blessing really of homeschooling, is we have an opportunity to set our kids up for success in adulthood. You know, the problem with putting them in a box school is that they're not individualized. They want them to be uniform because it's one person trying to help 20 people.
Right.
Whereas at home, we see our child and we see what their needs are, and we're able to be like, oh, we need to work on that, or oh, they need help in this area, or wait, they love this. Let's do a unit study on that. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. You can see what their passions are. You can see where their issues are, and as mom
And
or
give them
dad,
coping
and
strategies.
give them all kinds of strategies.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you said something earlier about not bringing school home with you, right? So, and, and knowing that you probably get it, because I'm going to take a guess, you probably said that more than one time before to people. So what do you mean by that? So what do you mean by don't bring school? You're homeschooling, but don't bring don't bring.
Okay, so like when I started, Dennis, I set desks out. I had a flag. We started the morning saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Which is great.
I mean,
that's great.
Right?
but I mean, we tried to do school. Like I stood up and I lectured, and then I said, she was in kindergarten, mind you. When I say don't bring school into home, you're not required to educate between the school hours. If your family functions better at a different part of the day, do educate at the time that works best for your family. I had a whole year, once I caught the vision of I don't have to do it the school way. I had a kid who was like incredibly interested in horses. So we spent an entire year studying horses. We read literature books about horses, and we did science through horse studies, and we did field trips, and we did a lot of hands-on activity we just waited until the interest came to an end, a natural end. We didn't feel like we have to get through this at a specific time in a specific way.
And we have to test on it every
way. Right. We didn't have to test. Just having discussions showed me that, oh, they were getting this, they were understanding it. And what really, I think at the end of the day, I think the ultimate core of what we mean by that, Dennis, is it really has to do with the approach to education. There's two main things I think that make this different. I think school is really focused more on what you're learning. It's content driven, and we felt like homeschooling gave us an opportunity to teach kids how to learn, and they can apply that to anything. So it was amazing to me when we first started working with other kids, how like learning how to Google search something, keywords, is not necessarily intuitive. It's a bit of a skill. But if you can give them that skill, man, you can unlock anything. They can learn anything. So that's one primary difference. And the other primary difference was the goal. Our goal was about becoming. Who are they becoming? Not even just professional career, none of that. Just as a human being, who are they becoming? And that's a process that continues beyond school. It doesn't end when when you graduate high school. So you don't have to stop loving learning, and you don't have to stop reading, and you don't have to stop getting good at math or whatever it is that you can say at 40, I really want to learn a new language. I really want to learn an instrument. And if you have that thought process of everything that I do is really about who I'm becoming, then you feel empowered to tackle anything that comes before you.
Well, and we think too, often when parents pull their kids out of school, we tell them de-school, just de-school for a while. And one of the things we try to get into their mind is, kids are not containers that we pour information into. And that's what school does. They're trying to get information into the kids, right? And what Jenni was talking about is we want them to be hunters and gatherers of information and to love the process.
And you can see the difference when we work with kids who are just still coming out of school. A lot of times what the mindset that they're still in is, well, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like, give me the formula. Okay, well, what do you want me to write about? Okay, well, here's the topic. Come up with a good question that you can study. Come up with a good question that you could research the answer to. And they are like a deer in headlights at first, like, well, what do I have to include in it? You have to include all the information that answers the question that you're asking. And so it's a mindset difference.
As you're saying that, it made me think about something, because you run a co-op, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about the co-op, but that co-op is literally become something that is kind of like when somebody says they do something cold turkey, right? And they just stop doing it. And then they don't, like, oh no, what do I do now? Right. But that co-op's kind of like that bridge in between. So you're
Yes.
getting a little bit of that classroom experience, but most of the time you're at home. And so it's kind of like pulling you so that you still have something that you are in that setting of what the co-op looks like. But then the majority of your time you're at home and doing that.
Right.
How do you differentiate the difference between what a co-op is and what a school is? So, because I know people hear the term co-op and sometimes they think school, and then other times people think school and it's actually a co-op. So how would you say, what would you say is like the difference, or how to differentiate it?
So a co-op, at least the co-op that we run, I'm sure that there are others out there that run differently than we do, but we do offer classroom experience, but it's on a once a week basis. So you're getting some cumulative time where kids are practicing how to take notes and listen to a lecture. They're practicing how to meet deadlines, how to arrange their time and manage their time so that they can complete assignments by a specific
lecture.
Yes, right. So
group project type stuff.
But for the most part, they are responsible for learning the information independently. So they have to set up their own schedule to do that. They have to break down the assignment over the course of the week and make sure that they're covering all of that. And then they're coming together for that one time period. And I think that even no matter what your kids are going to do, giving them a classroom experience is really important.